looking forward to hearing what you guys have been up to. Because I know I've been, I've heard some of it, but I'd like to hear it from you guys' perspective and really see how we can start working together more actively.
Forward to hearing what.
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Because I know I've been,
Oh my. Okay, I'm wildly repeating in somebody's feed.
Heather, who is the guest from the high school coming?
Brianna.
Okay, Brianna is here as an attendee, so you let me
Okay.
know when you're ready, and,
Okay.
and we'll.
I
patch her
think
through.
I'll invite her in, public comment period. I was because I didn't actually put her into although we could put her in under discuss summer interns. So hi Brianna out there. So, and obviously I know Shannon's going to be joining us because I was just emailing back and forth with her. And hopefully Sophia will be jumping on. Oh, here she is. Okay. Okay, so Sophia's looking for her link. Erin, you may, if it's possible. Oh, hold on. Let's see if this works. You may need to send her another invite if that's possible.
Danielle sent it on the 23rd. If that helps. It's in the email.
Yeah.
And always is the, let me see. Okay, I have.
Hi, Shannon. Oh. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to forward her my copy so she can just show up as me.
Okay, we could rename.
Yep.
That's easy enough.
Exactly. Oops. Send her the right one. I did not send her the right one. Darn it. I'm going to try it again.
Hold on, I can probably do this too. This is to Sophia?
Yes, so it's Fuddin.
Okay, hold on a second here.
The joys of technology. Okay, and if I have anybody on the commission who's willing to volunteer to take minutes, I've just demonstrated for a year that I'm a miserable failure. And Marlene has retired.
Okay, I'm going to send that now to Sophia.
Okay.
Okay.
We, up. There she is.
Oh, we did it? Okay.
Yep, there she is.
There we
Okay,
go.
so that's everybody we're expecting. Is there anybody out in the attendees other than Brianna?
We have Walter Welsh from Coastal Resiliency
Okay.
ready to come over, and we have, I guess, Maya Seston.
Oh, Maya is also with the Eco Club, so we'll bring them both on when
Excellent.
we.
Okay,
And
and that's it.
So, okay, so we're all here, so I can call the meeting to order at 7:34. But I know it says that the first thing we're supposed to be doing is reviewing and approving minutes. And I lost the files, so they haven't gotten sent to anybody, so I will find them and we will table that for this one. So then, does anybody have any additional agenda items to add to what I had on? It's a reasonable agenda for the January. Lots of planning. But did anybody have anything that you can wave at me or nope. Okay, so we can just skip right over that and jump right to the meet our Coastal Resource Commission members and have the presentation. And I'm going to mute Hank and let you take over. And do you want Walter brought on?
Yes. I've
Yes, please.
just-
Okay.
Yes.
I've asked him to join as a panelist, Hank. He should hop on over shortly.
Yeah, good, because this was actually Walter's, I was pinch hitting for Walter. I didn't know if he would be able to be in attendance. So as soon as he gets here, he's going to take over, but I'll just give a quick overview before we get started. The commission
Okay.
started in,
Yeah, excuse me, Hank, he declined to be a panelist. I
Tell
could
him-
allow
tell
him
him to
to
be a-
talk.
tell him to be a panelist. Tell him
Oh, here
to be
he
able to.
comes. Here he comes. He must have done it.
He's not the bashful kind. I don't know why he wouldn't want to be a panelist.
I know. There, Walter.
Walter,
You'll have to unmute.
Now you can hear me, right?
Here you
Yeah.
are.
Walter, there you go.
So I'm gonna let Hank cover this. The reason I asked him to be on, well, the reason I asked to be on today, I had I worked on with the ophthalmologist today, so my vision is to getting to my slides isn't quite. I was going to show you some slides, but why don't you? And you know what are on the slides because we've been talking. You want to start? Go ahead, start, Hank, and we'll go
Yeah,
through it. I'll chime in.
I'll try and share my screen with you if
Yeah,
I
because
can.
it's just a way of some bullet points to remind us so we don't forget what we're here for. And
Let's see here.
if you could
see if I
share
can
it,
do that.
if not, I can get mine. But because I have these drops in my eyes and they're like, you all look really wonderful.
Let me see if I can figure out a way to share here. Share content.
Yep, should say share
Screen.
screen.
Yes. Okay. Zoom. Microphone on. Zoom. Yes. Start. One. Go.
There you
The
go.
screen. It's buffering, so give me a moment. Unless you can see it and I can't.
Now we're seeing a spinning wheel. And
Yes.
it's nice.
Me too. So let me see if I can get over there.
Let's see. It looks like it's.
Is it the same as the inland wetlands presentation? Because I have that one.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we just changed it to say we were speaking to the
yeah.
Conservation Commission.
Yeah, if you have that one and you can get it up there, that would be fine. It's basically the same message.
Yeah, it is
Um,
the same message. I don't want the Conservation Commission to feel badly that we aren't giving them first shot here, but
So I
That's-
think if
We
I
will
think if
not
you
be
stop
distressed.
stop sharing, I should be able to share. Let's
Okay,
see.
yeah, it's the same message. It's very simple.
Um,
I see
Yeah,
you have
that's
started.
it.
There you go.
There it
Excellent.
is. That's
Well
it.
done.
You've got it. Really, Shannon, where would we be without you?
So anyway, thanks for allowing us some time to be on today. The commission started back in November 2019. We started with 18 members. It's now down to about 15. We had a couple of people move out of town and some normal attrition, but it's staying. It has stayed for the last over a year at about 14 or 15 people. So it's a pretty good sized commission. And what we're looking at, you can go to the next slide because that's thank you, Shannon. What we're really doing, the genesis of it, or the reason we exist, is that the state has looked around and said we should be planning, towns, particularly coastal towns, should be planning for a 20-inch rise by 2050 and of the sea level. And so in order to address that, as the state is doing and as individual towns are doing, here we are trying to look at what we might be able to do, what we can do in Madison for the sea level rise. And like the 20 inches by 2050 is a planning number. It's could be less, it could be more. We'll find out when we get there. But in anticipation of that, where is it that we can shore up our shoreline and the coast, and that's what we're all about. Which I'll just give you one quick approach. The approach is we're playing defense. We're not out there telling people to change their habits or do this or do that, act this way or don't do this. We realize it's happening as we speak, or at least the state has indicated we should be preparing for it because it is happening. We're already seeing small signs of it, probably some large signs. But the idea is we're here to protect and not necessarily to go out and cure global warming or anything like that. So anything, next slide, please. And the idea is that we would have a relationship, which we do with other commissions throughout the state, Circa and Deep, and frankly, other towns that are similarly situated as we are, particularly along the coast. You'll notice that most of the focus here is on the coastline, but we are a coastal community. And so from the commission's perspective, we look not only just along the shoreline, but look at any rivers, lakes, ponds, or other things that will be affected not only by sea level rise, but by the inundation, which will likely experience from extended or more frequent storms. So it could be a Hammonasset River, it could be a lake. It's not necessarily, just because you're inland by 5 or 6 miles doesn't mean you necessarily are going to avoid all of this. We're seeing that. And it's something that the commission is taking note of and trying to prepare in those areas also, in the marsh areas and those areas. Obviously, the shoreline is the biggest focus because it's the most obvious, but we are thinking in terms of the whole town because we are a coastal town, not just one small strip along the Long Island Sound. Next, sea level rise. So you can see, we just mentioned it already. Not only is it just sort of the gradual raising of the water that we're concerned with, although that's a big concern. It's also, as the water comes up, now you have storms, you have more frequent storms, you have the high tides that we had just in the last week with that extraordinary moon. You can see it in Fence Creek and other places where the water is coming up now. Having lived here for a long time, the water is coming up now higher than I remember it as 30 years ago. So something's going on, and so we're just looking to see how can we protect ourselves from that. So if we move along here. So we have a coastal resiliency plan. It was established in 2016. Part of our charge is to update it and see how we can update it to more specifically consider adaptation to the sea level and climate risk, and then of course we'd look to propose projects and efforts that the town could make in the face of what we see coming.
And Hank, I just interject here
Yeah,
that,
sure.
and this slide's good too, but this, we look to speaking to inland wetlands and now to this commission, you folks have been around a long time and some of this overlaps. This plan that Hank just referred to was put together in 2016 because of the nature of COVID. This commission, Coastal Resiliency, was established in 2019. We really haven't done much since, and we have a couple things we can do. One is update the plan, but two, we could actually get moving on some of the things that are in the plan and communicate with the Madison residents in general and to commissions like you who have a lot of experience communicating with the public on conservation issues. So that's kind of this, we're just sort of beginning on this. We're going to work with the plan we have, and then at some point, maybe sooner or later, update the plan. But go ahead, Hank. This just shows you what it means by adaptation in the way the plan is written.
Right. So the idea behind it is, so here you see a progression of protecting against water rise, and then and that's a wall that would hold back the sea, and you're seeing more and more accommodation with buildings, not only with zoning regulations and also actual, just whether the regulations exist or not, you're seeing individual homeowners and property owners building and raising their houses independent, frankly, independent of some of the requirements of the town. They're going above and beyond and going even higher. So from a raising your property perspective. And then ultimately the last step is, okay, I've tried protect, I've tried accommodate, I'm going to have to retreat. And what are the plans to retreat? Not just move it back as the water keeps coming, but what do you do in between that? And how do you, where do you go? And what do you do with the land that you're leaving that's becoming, overwhelmed by the water? But how do we mitigate that process as that goes on?
Let me interject here just to somebody have a real example to think about this, because you can think about what we're asking. We might ask homeowners to do, residents to do, we might communicate to them, but you can also think of land that the town owns. So if you look at protect, there's money has been put forth to revamp the Garvin Point wall down at the surf club. That's an example of protection. We're not moving, we're trying to protect the beach areas and the grass areas at Garvin Point. So that's protection. Accommodate, we may someday get to, is what do you do at the surf club to accommodate it? Do you raise the surf club building or do you move it back? And people will be looking for input from the community, from maybe this conservation commission. What are those choices? Before they spend money on the surf club, that they will be looking at what's the right way to handle a building that is right up on the shoreline. Should it be raised? Should it be moved back? Those are things. It's an example or a way to think about these. So, and it's not easy for me to remember all these, but think of this one word adaptation and these three subsets that go with it: protect, accommodate, or retreat, or maybe we could add a third, pray, or fourth, but we're not doing that.
You could pray.
Go ahead, Heather. If you
I
have
was just
something.
going to say a fourth one, which is sort of the extreme version of retreat, would be abandon.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't put that down. We don't want to bum everybody out.
It's a good point, Heather, and it's why it's what the land trust sometimes look to buy land from people, which is wetland, so that it doesn't get built upon, so they don't have to face the issues of protection and accommodation. So we're going to talk to the land trust too about, there are organizations like the land trust, and have been working on these issues for a long time. We're just an added party. Hopefully we can work with you. You can help us and we can help you in some way.
Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. My name is Sophia Udin, and thanks for this presentation. I love it. It's so important. So I really appreciate this. I'm just thinking back I'm a humanities person, but even in college, I studied oceanography. And the one thing I learned in that third course more than 30 years ago was sea levels are rising. We've known this for a very long time. So I wonder, one problem, we just as humans are not understanding the just the imminency of this problem. And the second thing is, I'm so glad that you mentioned, Heather, the possibility of abandon, but who is supposed to do this? Who, we're talking about possibility of adapt, we talk about protect, accommodate, retreat, or abandon. Who is supposed to be responsible for these issues? Because it's costly, right?
It certainly is costly, and there's no single entity that's responsible. And there are other experts who, I mean, Erin has a lot of experience with land use in her career. There's lots of pieces to this puzzle. I mean, one thing is this. In some cases, the state provides money, and towns can buy land and protect it in that way. So it effectively is abandoned. There's the idea of regulation, which requires accommodation. So all those pieces we're working on. We don't quite have answers. Erin, you might have a comment or two that could help us, but we're looking from the CRC is what we can do to communicate about the things you're talking about and how to communicate better to the whole town about these issues.
Yeah. I also, it's really interesting because one of the problems is also that we're talking about this as an issue that we must deal with now. But yet our town keeps doing construction near the coast. So it seems to me that we really need to think about, one of the first steps is creating laws and regulations that will limit future development on the coast and any changes to the coast.
Yeah, I think, and those are, as you know, they're not easy things to get enacted, but we're going to step. We're moving slow, but we're not acknowledging the problem maybe better than we have in the past.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting when we were going through this slide with the retreat and accommodate and protect. One of the things I was thinking about relative to this group is, okay, so now we're down. Let's say we're down along the shore, or we're close to a lake, and there's a marshland or reed land or water coming in that's not around the lake, but it's feeding the lake, or the lake's leaving it, or particularly with the salt marshes and things we have here, all the natural resources within Madison. And as people are considering raising and protecting and last case retreating, which is likely to happen at some point, what does that do and where do they go? Pick on the surf club again for a minute. The building on the surf club someday, is that going to be there forever? I know that the town is already talking about what they may do someday relative to not renovating the building, but not having the building where it is, perhaps moving it or building it a new building at some point in the future. And what does that do to whatever other marsh areas and beach areas there are around that, as we do retreat in some level and accommodate in others and protect in others. So your thinking on this, it will be an added benefit that the town will be getting relative to these issues going forward. Just my own thought on how this relates to you and your expertise. So the next slide, Shannon. So examples of an infrastructure projects that were, there's a bunch. Walter already mentioned Garvin Point, Garnet Park Road. The bridge in Garnet Park is already being worked on by the town. And one of the things that, here's an example from the Coastal Resiliency Commission's perspective. For example, with Garnet Park Road, it's a low-lying area, a lot of marsh area, and there's a bridge there. And part of the discussion that the town has had, and we've listened, we've been involved from a distance. We're not in the middle of it. But one of the subjects that came up at our last meeting was the idea that the town is doing work on the bridge in a marsh, low-lying area. And that's great for today, but are we making it, designing it, building it, and thinking about what we're doing relative to, okay, well, what if the sea level rises 10 inches? Will this structure that we've just put in there survive that? And are we, and we don't know the answer today because no one asked the question before we started, but the point is, as we go forward, particularly along places that are vulnerable, are we asking ourselves, yeah, we want to do this project, want to raise a road, put in a bridge, build this or change that. Yeah, that's for now. What's it going to be like in 10 years or 20 years? And are we building it and thinking in those terms? And I don't think that to date, that has been something that we collectively as a town think about or have put that on the list of questions to ask or things to check off that said, yes, we've just done this and we believe this will survive 15 inches or 20 inches or 10 inches, whatever it might be. But the general mode of sea level rise or water rising in lakes and rivers. So it's part of what we're doing tonight is, as far as Walter is the head of our communications group within the commission. And so what he's trying to do is get in front of various groups around town and be able to communicate and give our message. But part of that message is to make the idea that just because we're doing something today doesn't mean it's going to sustain itself for 10 or 15 years from now. And that's the mindset that we, being a shoreline community, should be having on all these projects that we're looking at. And this is, so there's a list of projects under consideration. I just pick on Garnet Park because it's a recent one that we were talking about.
Yeah,
but,
and Hank, there's one error there because I think whoever put the slide together might have been me. Garnet Park Road, it should have been a separate bullet for Circle Beach Road. That's the one that people probably on the Conservation Commission know where that is as well.
Yeah.
I was actually afraid that we were trying to make access from Garnet Park to Circle Beach.
It's a good question. The only connection there is not through a bridge. It's it's a mistaken bullet that didn't go in there.
The only connection is by boat.
Yes.
Those projects were put in when this coastal resiliency plan was done in 2016. These are all projects that were there, and not all of them get to a priority. But Garvin Point is one, and that's the town is really moving, and we get to provide input as you get to provide input on things. Garnet Park is not many people go down there unless they live down there. There's a bridge, and they're starting to move on that. That's a town engineering project. But in our plan, in the 2016 plan, the road goes west and then extends back east to Route 1. And both of those areas will need protection or some change in the long run. And I think some of the old thinking was, okay, just take care of flooding that's occurring right now. But what Hank has said quite well is really to get people to think about what kind of flooding is going to occur in 10 or 15 years or 20 years.
Right. And in areas like that, I'll just, say it goes to we have to think about the upstream stuff too, because it's not just the sea level rise, it's the increased intensity of storms. So if you have, 4 inches of rain coming down instead of the regular 2, the bridges need to be higher or the culverts under them need to be
That's right.
bigger.
Well, we talked that, there are professor from Quinnipiac brought her students out to talk to the Planning and Zoning Commission about some towns have made by regulation a larger buffer along the wetlands.
Mhm.
That's not something that this commission is proposing any new regulations at this point, but we're going to think about that. But what can we do to educate people about who own land that abuts the wetlands to help preserve those wetlands? Not that they're building on them, but there's some things they could plant. This might fall into more your area,
Yes.
conservation, than what we do, but we're thinking, is there a way to reach landowners who own land that abuts wetlands and have them do things that help protect the wetlands? I'm not sure this is just sort of a blue sky idea or whether we could actually get anywhere with this, but something to think about.
Going to require a large education campaign.
That's where we think. And I just say the ability to get out, and as you all know, to get out and meet with people and carry a message. We were eager to get going in 2019, and then we hit the pause button.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we've been struggling as every commission or committee has in town with the COVID environment. And but be that as it may, here's an example of some of the things that are other projects that would be under consideration. So you can see there's a number of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we move to the next slide, please. So yeah, here's some of the things that we're using to try and inform. Walter can probably comment better than I can on it.
We have, as you have a website, the Conservation Commission, the CRC has, when people just don't go jumping to those things on their own unless there's a reason to go look at it. I mean, and so, but there are some, but that's a place, and we have educational materials. We have a group that's working on this, and we're really trying to figure out what's the best way to reach folks. And maybe you have, with your group, Heather, have you done educational meetings with neighbors or with the town? What is the concept?
We have. There's been a few in the past. I have attended back in the early days. I met, for example, with the homeowners associations from Twin Beach, and then a couple of the streets farther up, because they were concerned about flooding. They were having issues and they wanted to learn. So I took advantage of my former education and all my old slideshows and from when I worked with Sea Grant, and did some talks with them. We've done stuff, outreach through the garden clubs, through Bower Park. And we've tried with social media and stuff, but it's like I'm a Luddite, and that's where we need to, I think, bring in some younger people to figure out how we can reach into some people. But it's we have some actually. So actually, if you want to stick around after the presentation, one of the things we're going to be discussing is where did I put it in? A calendar events for 2022, and specifically looking at over the years, we have several places we regularly have booths and presentations and things like that. And I'm actually think that this is the year I want to take it, formalize it, and start working on things more than a month before the actual date. So there may be some opportunities for us to get together on putting together something like for example, we talked about doing a educational sort of like fair down at the surf club during the summer, some evening, so that people could come down and learn things. And we've just never quite gotten to that. So if we were working in a larger group, we might be able to actually
that's a good idea, and that's
move these things
certainly
off.
that's a good thing for us to consider. That's great.
Yeah. So
I think, are we back at the beginning?
I think that we're back at the beginning pretty much.
okay.
So
Yeah,
go ahead, Walter.
No, and this was to go back to the beginning. It's really, we're getting some of that input from you, Heather, or for others on your commission is just great. And get the idea of maybe us working with you on some kind of communication would be a real plus as well.
Mhm.
We may, think of we're still working on this. Again, COVID put everything on hold for us. So we're looking at maybe by the next month, we'll start to, Hank has some people on this commission that are really eager to communicate. And we might take one area of town and work on that as a trial balloon to see how that works, and then move to other areas.
Right.
Yeah, we've gotten to Go ahead, please.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Hank.
No, I was just saying, we've also, and Aaron probably can speak to this better than I can, but we have received some funding with all the money that's coming out of Washington. Connecticut has gotten some, and that has come down to Madison. So we do have funding available for some of the projects related to the Coastal Resiliency Commission, and we have that now, which we didn't have previously. And so we've started, besides working on the plan, we started looking specifically at how can we help and contribute to some of the immediate things that need to get done. So an example was the bridge down at Garnet Park. Now, we didn't necessarily contribute to that, but other than advice from some of the technical people, and Garvin Point the same. But the idea was we have some funding available to do some of the things, both long view, but more importantly, some real dollars that might be able to do something specific to an area of vulnerability, which is a different twist than we had when we first started the commission in 2019. So we're anxious to see where we can go with that. So that's, I just mention it as something that we have not executed on yet,
Right.
but it's something that it's a new it's a new resource that we haven't had. We've had the promise of it, but now we actually have it. So we'll see what we can do with that, and hopefully, I'd like to be able to do one or two things relatively soon, whatever that means.
Right.
To get a win or two, saying, okay, we contributed to this, not only the people that we have, but we had some funding associated with our group, and we actually got this done for not only for the immediate issue, but with a long-term view of how we'll benefit from this for a while. So I'm hoping we can do something like that. As far as, I also wanted to mention, we're a relatively, I mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to let you know what we're doing with all these people. We have 14 people in the group, 14 or 15. So we've split it out into a policy group, a communications group, which Walter is the head of that, and then we have a technical group, which Graham Curtis is the head of that. So we actually have the benefit, and Woody Weiss is the head of the policy group. And we actually, from a technical perspective, we have 3 or 4 people that are engineers that do this stuff for a living. And they're on our commission, and they're more than willing. They're actually, willing's not even the right word. They're chomping at the bit to go out and help the town where it's appropriate, or help homeowners if they have an issue. And literally, they're engineers, so they're going to roll up their sleeves and get things done. So it's a commission that I think has been fits and starts so far. But I think once we get going, I think we're going to be able to help a lot. I'm hoping that we can, and then of course, what you all do is right part and parcel. I mean, you know, because we have a lot of water around us in town, and there are all sorts of natural resources, particularly marshes and things like that. This is if we could make this an ongoing relationship, I think it would benefit the town inordinately.
And Hank, as long as we can see Shannon Lewis sitting there right there on the screen. So she's on both commissions. So she's
there you go.
So if you want to use,
You're our official liaison. Congratulations.
Yes, we can use the bridge. We can use the bridge metaphor, and she's on communication. So Shannon, somehow we're going to get communication thing going with them. If it's down at the surf club or something, it's a goal for this summer. We'll see whether we can check back on whether we get there. All right.
Sounds like a plan.
So we have Shannon, which is perfect. It's ideal. So we're going to take advantage of that.
So the other thing that struck me, especially when you said money, is because the two things, having worked for the Sea Grant Marine Advisory Program for 15 years, and then one of the things I was working on was a project called Non-Point education for municipal officials on NEMO, and it's turned into this, it's actually Circa was spun out of it, and all these other things have spun out of it. And what the two things that were most valuable were face-to-face contact and demonstration projects. So if there are places in town where we can, and we also for the last 3 summers have had a spectacular group of interns working on us who have been putting together educational materials, and we're actually doing things like walking all the trails on the land trust property to identify invasives or things like that. So there's an opportunity to perhaps consider the intern model for this summer and do like neighborhood canvassing or education that way, or identify a homeowner or a homeowners association where they might be interested in doing some sort of demonstration for like replanting marsh or putting in an infiltration area to protect in back of their shoreline or things like that.
Mhm.
So I see those as potential areas where we could really take some of our group's education and outreach experience and get you guys with more bodies and more money so we could really get something moving.
That would be fun. That would be great. So thank you.
Yeah, and actually there's opportunities to do even demonstrations on town properties like the Salt Meadow or at the Surf Club or in some of those areas. So
Great.
anyway, so those are my thoughts. It's like always
Thank
like,
you.
yay.
Well,
I'm an idea person, so
good.
let's talk.
I think that we're at the end of the presentation. Are there any other questions or comments any of your group has? If not, I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you all.
Well, thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much. This was great. And I look forward to hearing more through Shannon, at least.
Yes.
Okay, that's true. So Shannon can stick around and tell you all the things I've put on the list for potential outreach events, several of
That would
which
be
are
great.
coastal and
All right, that's it, Shannon. Then we're going to delegate that. You can report back, all right?
Well,
To our meeting, to Hank's next meeting, in fact.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank
you.
you. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
have a good evening. Okay. So that, yeah, I think that I'm sure everybody else agrees that we've got a lot of opportunities to work closely with that commission.
And they have so much to offer for our sustainable Connecticut.
Yes, that as well.
And they just seem like a great group.
Yes. So, okay. So speaking of groups that we are looking to coordinate with, the next thing on the agenda is the Rockland Committee, the Habitat Restoration Project that we went up and at least Shannon, Sophia, and Christine and I went up and took a walk with Cecily on December 27th. It's a great project. What I've heard back from her is that they've met in the beginning of January, and everybody that they've talked to, their restoration experts, the other people on the committee, are taking the burn idea and going, that would be really good. Because they're like, like people are like, well, we hadn't suggested that because we don't actually do that, but that makes a lot of sense for that area. And so I've hooked them up with a couple people in the North Madison Volunteer Fire Company who have done controlled burns on the Rockland property in the past. We had also talked about maybe sharing interns with them this summer, but they decided that they thought that would require too much supervision from their point of view. So they don't actually want to have an intern of their own for the project, but they are eager to talk with us about any more of the planning. So that's a really good contact that we've made. And I said, if there's other things that they're looking at that they might want, help with, we can definitely consider raising some bodies or including them in some of our education stuff. So that's where that one is. So the next thing I had on the agenda was thinking about a calendar of events for 2022. Because as I was just saying to Hank and Walter, there's a lot of stuff we've been doing over the years, you know, the Bower Park, Green Up, Clean Up, all these things. And it's always like, okay, we're 6 weeks out, we're 8 weeks out, we should start thinking about this. So I said, you know what, this year, I think it would be a really good idea if we actually put together the calendar, talked about the dates, and started either giving people, you know, nominal control of or exact full control of planning for them, or at least coordinating, or looking at seeing if we can come up with some new ones. So the list that I came up with that we are already involved in is, or have acted in, is the Green Up Cleanup Day, which is either going to be the 16th or the 23rd, I would assume. Aaron, I don't know if this is going to be an official town thing. I know Fran Brady took it over for last year, but it was coordinated through Beach and Rec, I think.
I'm not sure on how that's,
Okay.
I
So
have
anyway.
not heard an update on that for this year,
Right.
so I can't answer that
So
question,
So
Heather.
that's one of the things, like it's January. It's like, okay, rather than coming up on March, it's like, okay, we'll think about that in advance. That's one. Dark
Oh,
Skies Week,
I'm sorry.
International Dark.
Excuse me, Heather?
Yeah.
You said the 16th or the 23rd of what month? is it?
April.
Okay, I wasn't
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, actually, there's a nice little cluster in April. So if we actually put some effort into, we could actually maybe do something really nice and integrated. Because Green Up Cleanup Day is usually scheduled around Earth Day, which
Earth
is
Day.
April 22nd. Dark Skies Week is always scheduled near the full moon, or the new moon closest to April 1st. And this year it is actually the week of April 22nd to 30th. So it actually starts on Earth Day this year. So between that and the Green Up Cleanup, and then Arbor Day is also on April 29th, which I was thinking would link into the Mad for Trees activity that Fran has been pushing. And he sent an email out and said that they were running a crowdfunding thing for the supply of the trees, and they've got $16,000 available for them to use that they raised. So so they're actually talking about, should we plant trees at Salt Meadow? Where should we be planting trees in town? So that's if we can do something that ties Earth Day and Arbor Day and all of that together that week, I think we could do some really interesting stuff.
Heather, I'm sorry to interrupt. They did go before Bob
The
Cook
Board
did,
of
and
Selectmen, yeah.
they went before Salt Meadow Committee with an alternate planting plan to modify some of those tree species on the
Okay.
approved planting plan, and Salt Meadow Committee was agreeable to that proposal. So
Excellent.
Beach and Rec is going to go through that process with planning and zoning
Okay.
to amend their landscape plan. And
Excellent.
that's mostly smaller caliber, 1.5-inch
Right.
caliber trees, and they're going to be focused along the parking lot in the planting island and things to try to fill that out.
Right. Now that's perfect, because that's a planting plan that's been waiting for a long time.
Yeah.
Yep. So the other things that we've been sort of peripherally involved with, the International Coastal Weeks, which is 3 weeks in September. I think that's something that if we're good, that would work well with the Coastal Resilience Commission, if we could do some work leading up to that and then do something that week during that period. We always have the Bower Park Festival in October. So I have a couple of opportunities that have been placed in front of me. One is that I'd like to figure out how to work into a calendar for us for this year. And one is that the interns last summer worked on the invasives identification, management, and eradication workshop, and they set that up. And we were supposed to be doing some training with the town crews in November, but I attempted to follow up on that, but I didn't get any response back from them. So I'm going to, now that it's January, I'm going to go back and say, okay, guys, when can we do some workshops? But the North Madison Church is the parking lot that we were looking at. And I was mentioning to them this earlier this week, this idea, and they had a garden tour last summer that we had the booth at, and they're actually fascinated with the idea of having a training session based on the perimeter of their parking lot, and they'd like to tie it into something. So that would happen probably between the middle of May and middle of June, if we're interested in working on that. And then the other thing I would like to build off is that Christine and Alex both sent me the things on the idea on the pledges for people to
Oh,
people
right.
working in their yards from the Long Island Sound Study and from some other organization. I was thinking that that would be another good thing to, if we could do something that would launch either something for through the newspapers or on the website or Backpack Express or something, to say, you know, okay, it's Mother's Day weekend, everybody is getting out in the yard. Here are things to, you know, pledge not to do in your garden, or to do or not to do. And then we could do another one that at Bower Park in the fall for leaf management, you know, so we could get this, if we start setting up those sorts of things.
Was that for fertilizer reduction? Is that what it was?
The fertilizer reduction,
Yeah.
planting
Mhm.
natives,
Yeah.
controlling your pet waste.
Right.
So those pledges that were coming out of the Long Island Sound Study. So that's what I had on my potential calendar. And since it was brought up, so we have a budget that we need to spend down before June 15th. And it's probably $2,000 or $3,000. It may be more than that, since we're not going to be paying for a clerk since Marlene retired, unless, Erin, do you know if
I
they're
don't think that
trying
came
to,
out of your budget.
it
No.
yeah, there was a line. Yes, it did.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't have my
Right. I
work
didn't
computer in
expect you
front
to.
of
It
me.
occurred
I
to me
will
tonight.
go through, I'll tell you what you have remaining in
Mhm.
the budget,
Okay.
and what could be allocated
Okay.
for the rest of this year.
Right. So that's what I had for that. Anybody got anything they want that they can think of that I missed that we might want to, that we should be including, or some ideas to add to that list?
It's too bad we can't go to the farmer's market anymore. Like, I wish there was
Mhm.
another venue where we could go, you know, a couple of times during that time of
Mhm.
year to, you know, just meet with the public and
Right.
put our face out there. But he stopped doing that, right? He stopped having different groups come in.
He did, because it went from the one group per week to I think it was like the church said, well, it's our property, so we're going to set up, and then the garden club wanted to come, and so I think he got a little overwhelmed. I'm wondering if there's someplace else in town that we could consider setting up for something like that, like the
What about the library? Do we?
library. Yeah, we could definitely, if and they were amenable before the start of COVID to the idea of us doing displays or something. I've been trying to figure out where, but now that I've seen the new art displays in the two next to the entrances by the parking
Mhm.
lot, there's some really it's a really nice space for putting up displays.
What
Mhm.
about the days that they have those sales outside businesses
Yeah.
downtown?
Oh, yes.
They like sip and stroll and
Sip and stroll,
that.
or the sidewalk sales.
Mhm.
You could also do
Um,
something at like Pride Fest, something like that.
Right.
And
Pride Fest is the
also
same day as the Bower Park Festival. So
Right, that's what it was. Yeah, this
That
year.
was-
Might not
yeah.
happen this year.
might
That
not
was-
happen again. Yeah. That would be a long day for those of us who go
Yeah.
to the Bower Park Festival. So
what about also on days like Memorial Day or 4th of July or Labor Day?
the parade days. possible, we certainly get more people running through town. As I was thinking about the that brick pathway in the middle of downtown where you can get from Boston Post Road back to Stop and Shop. It's got a name. I have a headache. It's not coming to me. Where Ashley's is.
Oh, yeah.
Drawing
there
a
it
blank.
Yeah.
is.
I don't know what it's called,
They
but I
call
know
it
what you're
something.
talking about. What
Is
is
it
it called?
promenade? Is that what they call the promenade or something? I don't know.
Or
No,
the
it has an
arcade or
actual
something
name.
like that. But yeah, so
We could compete in the chili contest and get a spot.
well, that would be in a little too soon for this year because I suspect that's this coming weekend.
Is it really? Oh,
Well,
'cause
it's
they're
always
doing
the
Super Bowl,
Saturday
that's
before.
right.
It's always the week between.
Well, next
before,
year.
Yeah. If you've got a good
That's
chili
funny.
recipe, we can
Not
consider
really.
it. Or
I mean,
chowder.
it's decent, but
Yes. Library. So we've got definitely a bunch in April and then some May, June. So, and then September, October. So if we can think of anything, I don't want to try and shoehorn anything in before April in terms right now. But I would really like to jump this off that way. So if there's anybody who's thinks any of those is an awesome idea that they'd like to move forward with, or take management efforts on, I would be happy to turn things over. But otherwise, I'll put that list together and distribute it, or I'll put it on a calendar. Anything else to that? Yeah. Madison Sustainable CT recertification. I'm still trying to break into my computer, but Erin says she has found all of Dave's old files. So you and I should get together next week sometime. I'll figure out what days I'm not taking my mother
Sure.
for infusions.
I think that's I think that's a good idea. I do have there was a webinar last week that went through the changes for 2020 recertification. The deadline for there are 2 in the year. One is April, and I believe the other is for a fall certification. So we have expired at this point as of December 2021. So we'll, with respect to the updates, I know Dave did some work and Heather was part of that as well. I apologize if you all were also, thank you if you were, but different section assignments, some things that haven't changed. We are eligible to resubmit some of the original information from the 2018 certification. So hopefully we'll not have too many gaps in information, and it won't be that terrible of a process. But yes, I think it would be good to just have a breakdown to see how far you've come so far and compare it to some of the notes I found.
Okay.
And then get on a schedule to try to get other groups involved where necessary to check off some of these boxes because April will be here before we know it, and
Yes.
we may not, depending on how many other groups we need to involve, we may be looking at the later submission. But my goal off the bat would be the earlier, if feasible.
Okay. Yes, I would agree. Okay. Now would be a good time to invite Brianna and Maya up onto the screen.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, got Brianna. Okay, and you go turn on your videos. There. Hey, Brianna. Hi, Maya. So meet you two are the co-presidents, right? Yes. Okay. So they're the co-presidents of the Eco Club at the high school right now. I would like you guys to, if you could do a brief tell everybody on the commission what you guys have been up to this year so far, and what your plans are for the spring, and then we can talk about the summer internship program. Okay, so.
Okay, so right now I'm working on a recycling initiative for Daniel Hand because right now our recycling status isn't so great. So today actually I talked to a woman from Massachusetts who's like a sustainability consultant. So she evaluated our school, and so hopefully she'll help us with that in the future. And hopefully that could segue into us composting because we're looking into that as well. And then Maya is working on a hydroponics project right now. Maya, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
I wanted to work on a hydroponics project since last year because I did the UConn CAP program, which is an amazing program. I worked with a grad student at UConn, and he did green boxing. Green boxes, and that was really cool. And he said he could kind of translate that into a hydroponic system at our school, and he showed me like a whole like budgeting plan for that and like how to do that. And he was gonna give me some seeds and some stuff for free, but when I tried to talk to the school, COVID was like we had to shut down, so that didn't really work out. I tried to start it off this year, and so I'm working with some teachers to how to put this in their curriculum, and so how the school can use it for classes, and then how Eco Club could use it and maybe sell some of the food we make in the CAF. And then like a goal that would be for like next year, Eco Club people would be testing a cool way to test like how light affects plants. Is something I think would be really cool to like eventually tackle. And we also have, which I know you want us to talk about, our Pollinator pathway garden, which right now it's really exciting to see. I've been doing this since sophomore year. We've laid the mulch for it, and it's not where we originally wanted, like in the circle, but it's a little bit off to the side in a very, I think either the same or even bigger plot. And we've laid the cardboard and mulch. And so maybe like March or very early spring, we're going to start thinking about next steps of finally planting. And we work with our master gardeners, Mrs. Brady and Mrs. Stark. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going to be off towards the field or on the other side?
There's a something we call like the shed, which is like a white shed kind of like off the side in front of the school. And it's gonna be like right in there in that corner with like a tree in the middle. We're trying to keep the tree, but we'll see how that works with like our gardening layout. And it's gonna be like a bigger spot where we could possibly have like a bench in the back, so like encourages students to like be more interactive with it. And it's like where students hang out after school a lot too, so it would get probably even more attention this way.
Excellent. That sounds great. So, okay. Anybody got any questions about what they've been working on? So what we've got coming up for this summer is we should have money. We would like to have interns. I don't know if you two are interested in working with us for the summer. We typically have educational program. They've done a combination of field work and developing educational programming or writing letters to the editor or things like that. So, and you just heard some of the stuff from the Coastal Resiliency Commission. So we're going to be looking at what might be appropriate intern projects. We have in the past, they've been very much also intern driven, by what they were interested in working on from our long list of things. So it's been dark skies, it's been invasive species, it's been the pollinators. Sarah put together an amazing inventory of pollinators species in Madison for their website. So those are the sorts of things that we're that's my other thing is like this year I actually want to start thinking about the intern program before it's May. So I know that Sarah is not going to be able to come this summer, but I do not know about Elizabeth and Marina, but we have funding to hire several people, hopefully, since anybody got any input I'm fading here. Sorry. Nope. Okay.
I have one. How big is the club? How many students do you have in it now?
Like 10 to 15 maybe. It fluctuates. We usually have at least like on the lower end, like 6 people at least, and then like sometimes if people bring their friends, they might have like up to 15 if like a
Okay.
speaker's in or something.
And what grade are you? What grade are you?
Where Brianna and I were seniors, but we did see a big kick in numbers with like the Pollinator pathway garden. That's something that people got really excited about and getting like hands on.
Yeah. So if we could come up with some projects, you all might also be able to suck in some of the other Eco Club members.
My daughter's starting as a freshman next year, so I got to scope out all what
Yes.
She's our first one going into high school.
Tell her to join.
I will.
It's a great group. They really is.
That's good. Good. Thank you for all your efforts.
Okay. So, so I want to ask you to, having listened to, for this being your first time coming to one of our meetings, did anything strike you as really interesting, or did you have any questions about anything you heard? Go ahead, Maya.
You guys are talking about like struggling to like have good outreach and like education. And then Mrs. Bracco, we've talked about just like wishing we had more speakers at the school for like an assembly, because we did that like last year with a guy, like a sports guy, come in, and like some of the seniors were like in the auditorium, and then like everyone else was like in different rooms zooming in. It's like it was possible like in the time of COVID. And I think like having a good topic that you guys are very passionate about, speaking about that and giving some education in the schools, I think that'd be something that'd be really great.
Okay, that would be cool. And I've always said that the way to educate the adults is to educate their children. So
that's right.
Okay.
Have you heard of the any of the training? I think it was our assistant town engineer who did some reach out with students either at Brown or Jeffrey, and I don't know. There is a component in the MS4 requirements from the state for stormwater, and I know there were some efforts to that effect at Bower Park, and I just thought, I wonder if working in conjunction with the commission to be able to maybe help achieve both those credits for the town for educational outreach, but also helping to provide resources to students too, because so many of them have this environmental component in their curriculum now in the science programs. So.
And it's always good to get hands-on experience when you're thinking about careers.
Right. Yeah.
I just had a question. You were talking about the green up cleanup thing in April. Can you like explain that more?
Okay, so the Green Up Cleanup's been going on for a couple of decades. It fits and starts, but what it is it's a Saturday morning where the town puts a dumpster up in the Roberts parking lot and one down at Memorial Town Hall, and they hand out gloves and trash. And basically it's to go around and clean up the town. So they fill dumpsters with stuff. I've got some impressive pictures from last year. So it's basically sort of a litter removal, environmental awareness. And we've put, last year and for a couple of years, we've had a thing where it's like, if you're out walking along the side of the road, picking up trash, and you happen to see the plant in this picture, feel free to pull it out too. So
yeah, because I was thinking about like organizing something with Eco Club to pick up trash like along the road, but we could like work with you guys on that day.
Would be excellent.
Yeah.
That would be excellent. Yeah, because what we usually end up doing is staffing the booths and giving people, finding out where people are going. But it would be great to have more people and send you all guys off in a designated direction or something like that.
Yeah, we can advertise around the school too.
Yes, that would be excellent. Yeah.
So, it was pretty well organized last year too, whoever organized it, because people could sign up online.
I think it was Fran.
Yeah, but I mean that means it's already in place somewhere, because
that is true.
because I don't think that you had to get in touch with Fran to,
No,
you know,
no, you're right. He had like a
to-
Sign Up Genius or something.
yeah,
on
to
the-
sign
on the
up.
town
It was, I
website,
thought
yeah.
there was a link on the town website or something.
Yeah.
So.
So, but if we can do advertising through the high school and we can
Mhm.
do that, that's something we can start thinking about, find out where that is. I have a couple other reasons I need to call Fran, so I guess Fran and Kelly and I will be having another meeting. Okay. So, anything else? Young women? Okay. So the last thing I have on the agenda for tonight is to confirm the meeting dates for 2022. Oh, and Erin wants to talk.
No, I was just saying thank you to them
Yes.
for,
Oh, yes. So thank you both.
for joining us.
Yes, and we'll look forward to seeing you at future meetings. We'll actually put you, I'll make sure you get onto the panelist list for the future meetings. Okay, great. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye. Okay. So tonight's the 27th. I put the list at the bottom of the agenda. February 24th, March 24th, April 20th. The only one I really have a question about that I'd like to confirm with everybody is the November meeting, because obviously we're not going to meet on Thanksgiving. And I was thinking about the Wednesday before or the Monday after, because, but I'm really not fond of the Monday after because I'm sure that nobody will get anything done. And Erin, you actually had a different date. Was the
We did.
Did-
There were conflicts with rooms. And I don't know if it was for, I can't remember what, it was either through the assessor or registrar of voters or somebody who had, needed all of these rooms. So we had conflict.
Okay.
And we had thought to move it to the Thursday before.
Oh, so this, but that would
to
be
the
the same time as
17th.
planning and zoning.
Right.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a problem, I guess. Hopefully we're not, yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
see, I was actually, I was pleased and sort of scared to see that we got actually scheduled into meeting room A. Because usually we're in our nice little cozy meeting room B, but A is fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's spread out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we
I
can all
think
sit
this
at
was
the
the
big
only
table.
one that's actually in D is the
The
for
17th.
conservation. Yeah, on the
Yeah.
17th.
Okay,
So if that doesn't work, I mean, it could either be you end up skipping a month, if nothing needs to
Right.
be, or
right. Well, does the 17th work for everybody? It's one Thursday a month.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll confirm that then. Excellent.
okay.
So that's all I've got for tonight. Although Erin, if you could just let us know what's going on. Is anything going on in town that
Sure, I could give you some updates. Let's see.
and are we getting an environmental planner anytime soon, or did that not work?
No. So I can provide you on an update for that. So we did have a job description that was finalized and approved, and we went out and advertised. We had several applicants for the position. We did go through the interview process, and unfortunately we're unable to fill the position with a qualified individual. And so at this point, much to his chagrin, John Delore is still our acting environmental, our wetland officer, although I have been helping him out with that since I wore that hat in other municipalities. So I'm exploring whether or not we should change the job description to more of a wetland officer type position, to have somebody still a full-time position, but exploring how we may be able to change that to maybe not such a planning position, since we're having trouble filling it with someone who actually could be a planner. Some may have been able to be wetland officers, but not necessarily wearing both hats. And I know when Dave created the position, or, or had budgeted for this position, he was wearing an economic development hat and the town planner's hat. And the town had previously just a part-time wetland officer. So with, our combined backgrounds, I think the zoning enforcement, and I do have environmental background as well, that we may be able to still cover all of the things we want to, but just with a restructuring in our department, and not losing that full-time position. But we need to look at actually getting somebody in the office who can start doing some of the actual regulatory work, so that we don't start falling behind.
Would you, so I work in recruitment and like sourcing stuff. So if you need help sourcing candidates, I know some tricks there, and I would be happy to help with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, our methods were, we did post on Indeed. We were open for a month. On Indeed, we went through the planning listserv with UConn, and we went through Kakiwick as well. And yeah, it was unfortunate. It would just, some people with many other qualifications, or, for out of town, it was disappointing. But we're also at this point, our human resources director has resigned, and so we're without a director. So at this point, I'm just trying to gather some other job descriptions and see if I can create another full-time position. I don't want to lose our full-time. We got one, so I'm not going to give up that position at all. But yeah, it's a little more challenging than we had anticipated, unfortunately. But
That is too bad. So
Kind of interesting. Like there's a lot of groups posting for these environmental positions. Like CCLC is posting for jobs, Sustainable CT is posting for jobs, and it just seems like all these groups are posting for people with an environmental, with environmental experience, but it just seems like it's difficult to find somebody.
And it's unique to the municipal end, and sometimes there are challenges with working for a municipality. We don't have flexibility of working from home. You do have your salary, and so you're here all day long, and you have responsibilities as far as night meetings as well. And trying to attract people to want to do that is a little challenging. And there are many openings, not necessarily wetland officers, although there are a lot of ZEO openings in the state, and planning openings. But some of those smaller, they all wear the same hat. They don't have the luxury of having multiple people. So the ZEO is often the wetlands officer, or vice versa.
building officer.
What's that?
Or they have, or the building inspector, and any number of other things. Yeah.
Oh, thankfully, no, not here.
Yeah, the town my parents lived in for a while, they had a wetlands enforcement officer who was available 4 hours a week.
Wow.
And I don't want to lose that full time, because it is,
it's important. Yeah.
And we have a lot of wetlands.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
So I'll keep you posted as far as how we're moving forward, for sure.
Okay, good. Anybody got any other questions for Erin? Nope. Okay, then I will take raised hands for everybody's favorite agenda item for moving that we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Shannon is moving that we adjourn, and I think Sophia got the second in. Yes. Okay, so all in favor, wave goodbye, and thank you all for coming.
Night,
tonight.
everyone.
Good night.
And so Erin, I will look at my calendar and let you know what days I'm not going to a hospital with my mother this next week, and we'll see if we can get together.
And if it's easier, just email me some of what you have, and I'll sort it out ahead if we need to buy a week or so. That's fine.
Okay. Sounds good.
Take care.